Howdy folks, I'm Astrid Lenore, and this is the 2021 Epiphone inspired by Gibson Firebird. It's one of Gibson's quirkiest models, and today we're going to take a look at what makes these guitars unique. So a brief history lesson. The Firebird was part of a series of Gibson design experiments that started back in the 50s with the Explorer and Flying V, as well as the lesser-known modern guitars. In the early 60s, sales of Fender instruments, particularly the Jazzmaster and Jaguar, were taking off, and Ted McCarty decided they needed a new instrument to compete. Enter car designer Ray Dietrich. You heard me right. Car designer. At this point in the guitar's evolution, borrowing design cues, paint colors, and even names from prominent cars was becoming commonplace. And you can't argue the results of his work were distinctive. Love it or hate it, you're going to remember a Firebird. Dietrich also designed the Thunderbird base models, which closely followed the Firebird's design cues. So the original Firebirds, released in 1953, looked much like this one, and became known as the reverse Firebirds. They were offered in 4 versions with 1, 2, or 3 of the unique Firebird pickups, which I'll go into detail on later. They were the first Gibson solid bodies to utilize neck-through construction, with a 5-piece walnut and mahogany center block that extends from the tip of the headstock to the butt of the guitar. To this center block were attached 2 slightly thinner mahogany wings to make up the rest of the body. They had what could be described as a softened Explorer shape with a unique reverse headstock which featured straight banjo tuners and a body tone carved to achieve a straight string pull, and were offered with or without a vibrola unit. After a few years of lagging sales and complaints from Fender about design patent violations, Gibson released the non-reverse Firebird between the years of 1965 and 1969. Now, why was this the non-reverse and the original the reverse? Shouldn't it be the other way around? To which I say, quiet you, and ask you to simply bask in this guitar's quirky glory. Along with the obvious changes, the non-reverse came with a set neck and a few models with P90 pickups. They command high prices today mainly due to their rarity, although a few still see stage use, most notably with Brian Albert of Silver Sun Pickups. So what makes the Firebird unique, you may ask? I mean, isn't it basically a slightly melted Explorer with many humbuckers you could find on many other Gibson models? Actually, no. The pickups on a Firebird, with the exception of a few more modern variants, are very much their own thing. Under this solid metal cover are 2 Alnico rail magnets around which the coils are wound directly, while a mini humbucker has a standard ceramic bar magnet which magnetizes both sets of pole pieces. This construction is much more reminiscent of, you guessed it, a Fender pickup, and in particular the difference in magnet type makes a huge difference, giving you an articulate sound with emphasis in the high mid-range. I've heard the sound of these pickups described as a Telecaster on steroids, and, well, you'll hear it for yourself in a bit, but they are very much their own thing. And the combination of that pickup tone with the unique sustain and feel of a neck-through guitar is just magical, particularly for lead work. It just seems to cut through the mix at any volume. So that's the Firebird, but what about this Firebird? How does the Epiphone inspired by Gibson stack up against the originals? Pretty well, actually. The main difference seems to be the headstock design, which is simplified and has ditched the banjo tuners for standard Grovers. Not a big deal for me, but if you need that vintage accurate look, you might want to look elsewhere. I've also read that they're using a different type of Alnico magnet than the originals, but personally I can't hear the difference. What's amazing to me is the price point of this guitar. To get these sort of specs in a well-crafted sub-1000 guitar is amazing. Last I checked on Reverb, these were listing brand new in the $650 to $700 range. Compare that to the cheapest Gibson currently on offer with the correct pickups at $64.99. That's 10 times the price for essentially the same instrument, and many recent Gibsons even use ceramic magnets to cut cost. Granted, you do get the vibrola and proper headstock on a US-built guitar if that's important to you. So enough of that. How does this thing play? Well, the first point I need to make, which can't be overstated, is if you're looking for a practical, lightweight, ergonomic guitar, look elsewhere. The body is large and a bit awkwardly shaped, and the overall length is laughable for a standard Gibson scale length. There is so much mass in the headstock and behind the bridge that the case is bigger than my bass cases. And speaking of cases, yeah, you're going to need one made for this guitar. And if I were you, I wouldn't cheap out. Proper hard cases are expensive, yes, but compared to the cost of headstock repairs, That disclaimer out of the way, while it takes a bit of getting used to, the Firebird plays surprisingly well. The narrower wings were a stroke of genius, as not only do they save weight, but they make it easier to get your right arm into a comfortable playing position. Not as effective as a comfort carve, of course, but it does make a difference. And the weight is actually much lighter than you'd think. It's a similar heft to my Jazzmaster. The neck starts out very wide and flat in the lower frets, which takes a bit of getting used to, but I find comfortable. It fattens up substantially as you work your way up the neck, though. The way this guitar sits, your left hand wants to gravitate somewhere around the 9th to 12th frets, making this a great guitar for lead playing. The flip side, if you're smaller of stature, you may find reaching the lower frets comfortably a challenge. It's a similar feel to my 30-inch scale bass 6. Incidentally, the electronics on this instrument are excellent. It comes with full-size CTS pots and quick disconnects on the pickups. But enough tech talk, let's hear this bird shriek. thoughts? Wow. Just wow. It has the look, it has the sound, and it's well within most people's budget. If you need that raunchy Firebird growl in your life, it will not disappoint. I highly recommend giving the Inspired by Gibson a shot. Till next time, stay beautiful.